This episode is brought to you by Monogram. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise.
Hi, everyone. Today, we are thrilled to welcome the amazing Erin Stetzer to the Design Dash podcast. Erin is the powerhouse behind Stetzer Builders, known for delivering exceptional, high-quality homes with a focus on integrity, transparency, and client satisfaction. Erin and I actually are working on a project together right now and have worked on a project in the past. So I know firsthand how wonderful she and her team are. She is a graduate master builder, recognized for her ability to navigate unpredictable market conditions while maintaining a results-driven, ethical approach to every project. And like I said, I've had the pleasure of working with Erin on a project in Houston for some of my favorite clients. And I can say firsthand, her dedication to craftsmanship, collaboration, and doing the right thing is truly inspiring. At Laura U Design Collective, our team, we say a lot, like we are all here to collaborate and work together, and the finger pointing doesn't happen. We are here to work together and solve problems and advocate for the homeowner. And so Erin, I think, really shares that sentiment. And today we are going to dive into her journey, challenges and rewards of building in today's market, which if you've ever built or renovated a house, you know how hard that is, and her approach to creating homes that stand the test of time. So Erin, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Welcome, Erin.
Well, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Melissa. And I agree with you. It is so nice to align with people like you, because everything you just talked about in terms of integrity and showing up to a project in a productive, I kind of want to say like a healing way, like to where things can be broken and hurt, and you remove the blame game and you go in with the like doctor, hat on, people align and things get done in a really nice way for our clients. So,
yeah, I agree. And I mean, we've both been in this industry a really long time. And so I know that we've worked with a lot of different types of people, like you working with different designers and us working with different builders. And so I think I really want to know, like in these years at the helm of Stetzer Builders, what are some of the key principles that define like a truly exceptional home for a client? What are those things that you have to stand by and uphold in every single project?
Yeah. So if I take a look from the client's perspective, oftentimes the perspective is all of the flash, all of, like when a designer presents a home or a builder presents a home, the immediate perception is like that's the gold, but it's really not, right? Like, yes, that's beautiful, but what it really was and is are the phone calls behind the scenes. Hey, we see something here. What do you think? Before we make a decision or a move forward, what do you think about this? Or, and I could give examples, but those are the things that happen on a daily basis with extraordinary designers like yourselves, extraordinary architects and builders. And so that's all the meat behind the scenes that really the end result is just an end result of all of those conversations and mock-ups and trade evaluations, like subcontractors taking a look at something, knowing your vision, like we're in alignment here. We really understand your vision. Are you guys okay with maybe taking a different route there? Or, right. So just that collaboration. And from the builder's perspective, I see projects get in trouble when the building industry assumes that a decision can be made without having the collaboration of the team and the visionaries. That's where things can go south. And so I love the idea that you brought up, that it is about the collaboration and teamwork and staying in the problem until it's no longer a problem. That's how homes really turn out like really spectacular.
Yeah, I think that's like, I say to clients, especially potential clients that are just first hearing of us or coming to us for their project, like, and this may be an insane thing to say, but I say, you're going to have a beautiful home. That's a given. You're coming to us because you know the end product is going to be beautiful. You see our portfolio, you've seen our work, you've heard from your friends or family or whoever. It's a given that you're going to have a gorgeous home. It's all the stuff that happens in the middle, like the hard part, the process. That is where we are here to advocate for you and really hold your hand and communicate. And I think that that's why we love working with you, because that's what you're doing too. Like, does that make sense to you? Does that resonate?
100%. And it's in the, you hear that phrase, it's in the details, and it really is in the details. And I think so much of the world these days, and I see it, we have 5 kids. I see it in our kids. Like, they're so quick to move on to the next because of the way the world works and the pace. In fact, I had a conversation with our 16-year-old daughter on Sunday night, and she said, "Mom, I really wish I grew up in your time when we didn't have phones, because you don't have everyone's attention. And the key to building is getting everyone, the team, the client, the builder, whatever, getting the attention focused on that specific thing together to move forward." And so, like, that's where the magic happens.
Man, we sound so ancient. The time before phones.
Do you know, here's the next book I'm going to write, that my kids taught me everything in business. And it's true. It's totally true.
The land before time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. We had dinosaur on the cover.
Sorry, Melissa. I just had to jump in there with that.
I mean, talking about the instant gratification thing, I mean, I think that that's what can make this process so difficult. I think we talked about this with Megan Strasberg, who's on our team last time, is that this is this deliberately slow process. And I mean slow in comparison to, I can't just Google it and figure out the answer. And I think that that's what leads to a lot of anxiety and uncertainty with clients. And then, especially with people who just aren't in this industry and aren't used to the way that things work.
And one thing I will say about your company is that you do have really strong systems in play. Which, again, like, even though there are systems that are really strong, you check the boxes, you dig into details. And so that's just, when we think of slow, to me, that's what that means. It's ticking away at the minor things that are so important in order to create something. And so I think, just knowing where the world is going, the systems have sort of gone away because it's so reactive, and that is the wrong approach, especially in the environment we work in, where they're really, really nice homes and great clients, and that's what it does take. And there are times where we wish it could go faster, but in the end, our clients are going to move in, they're going to be smiling, they're going to be having coffee the very next morning they wake up and looking out the window and saying, "Oh my goodness, all of this effort, all of this work, all of this excitement was so worth it." And that's the pace.
Yeah, Megan, we just had her on the podcast, and she said, we go slow to go fast. Like, we have to get these things in place before construction, because you're either going to go slow now or you're going to slow construction down on the back end. And so the design team I said, we're going to talk to Erin Stetzer. Do you guys have questions for her? So in the same vein, they want to know, in a perfect world, what info do you need at the outset of a project? And would you take a project if you didn't have all the design done up front? If you were designing while you're in construction, like you're doing FF&E, you're doing interior elevations simultaneously with construction, would you even take that project?
So our rules are, the first thing we look at is the team. And we work with the top 1%. That's the deal. Like, that's how I grew up. When I went to college, I played college basketball, and we're top 25 in the country, Division I. I attempted to play pro golf on the mini tour with Nike. I didn't make any money. So I left. But like, that's always that, right? Started a home building company after learning how to build and get beat, I was beat up a little bit, but it's always the 1% is who we align with, which would be the client, the design team, and the architect team. So that's the first thing. If it doesn't align, we are not a great fit for that project.
Yep.
So that's the first thing. As far as how much information is received up front, every project is so different. And I think I will say that there at least needs to be a baseline, because a lot of the homes that we work on deserve more time for details to be established and refined, and to have, feedback from vendors and tradespeople. Not all of that is ripe and ready from the beginning. So there is that space, that creative space that we know exists. We try to keep that to 15% of the project. So when we're looking at a project, and we go through this with your team, we have lots of meetings, and we establish a proposed finish schedule. I mean, I think the one we have right now is probably 15 pages long, and it's a collaboration between what your team is envisioning and what the architect is envisioning, and vendors that are in play. So we try to package what that looks like from a budget perspective, from who the right trades are to use, and materials. And we try to get within 85% of what that looks like before we start construction.
Okay. Before breaking ground, we are 85% of the way there.
That's our goal. Yes.
Okay.
But here's the thing. It doesn't just show up on your desk or my desk from the start. That's the part we're talking about, where we pick up the phone call. Hey, Shannon. Hey, we noticed, we're looking for a hardware allowance.
We need allowances for the door hardware. I know. We just looked at that.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not going to assume I know the conversations that you've had with the client, and that's where builders get in trouble, right? Like, if I assume I know, I totally know,
this whole house is MTech, when in fact it's S.A. Baxter, and those are two very different things.
Yes. And so those are the back and forths. And the particular project that you're talking about, I mean, we've been talking for a good 6 months. So this is we haven't even started the project. So that's the team that wants to be in alignment. And yes, the creative energy needs to exist and sort of packaged in different places, but it wants to be developed when it's time. And that could very well be during construction. Now, the other part of that is really on the builder, making sure that we're communicating. We know that this bar is going to be extraordinary. We know there's brass. We know there's marble that we're going to cut from a stone, whatever, a big, huge stone. So things like that. We know these things, but let's talk about this now while we're pouring the slab, because we'll want to, get all of this organized within 4 months. Those are the conversations that happen after we start a project.
And you said something a minute ago, the reactive, people being reactive. Nothing drives me more nuts than reactive approach to a project. Our goal is that we're always way ahead. We are forecasting, there's forethought, we are being proactive, we're anticipating client needs, what the builder needs, the construction schedule, all of those things. So I think from my perspective, that's the biggest leg up we have, is the fact that we are very proactive, just like you. That reactive nature that so many people subscribe to has to be the most stressful thing in the world. I can't imagine.
No. Yeah. And just like you, the systems are in play. And just like us, the systems are definitely in play, and the checklists exist, and the standard operating procedures, even if it's in a video form on Loom, whatever. We know how to go through a pricing exercise, and there's a check-in date, and there's a follow-up date, and there's a phone call date. And that, right, there's a whole system in play that you guys have in your company. And that's how you and I both avoid the working in the reactive zone. It's in the planning zone. You don't win unless you plan. I did learn that in sports.
Yeah.
Like, I studied who I was guarding. I was a point guard, and I studied film. And I knew that they wanted to go right all the time coming down the court. I would push them left. That was my one job, right? And then I knew, like, we would figure out where they would fumble. So that's by planning. That's not by just letting someone or something go where they want to go.
And like Melissa, this is something just top of mind because Melissa's building the guided design experience. That's what we're calling working with Laura U. You as a client are getting a guided design experience. And so Melissa just broke down, like, this is how we communicate. If you work with us, if you're on our team, this is how we communicate. I'd love for you to talk about that, Melissa, because I know it's top of mind, like, because we just talked about it, but I love it.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to set that expectation of what kind of experience, what kind of creative experience is the client going to have? And I think that we all have it in our minds of what that might look like, but we've never fully specifically documented it in this kind of way. So very much just like we have a handbook for how to request time off, for example, how, what are our holidays? We're creating a handbook for how to communicate, not only with the clients, of course, but with each other, with prospective clients in a way that just aligns with the whole ethos of the firm. And
that's amazing.
I think that's one of those things that, like, you can really see outwardly. I mean, and which is why, all of our designers really love to work with you too, Erin, is because I think that there's something about, like doing what you say and saying what you do. And so we really just wanted to have all of that documented and written down. So that expectation was very, very clear on how we want people to communicate. But I love how you go back to sports, because I often think, like, how do designers get to, I do feel like sometimes it's almost like a feat, it is a sport. You kind of have to approach it. There's just so much teamwork that's involved. And Laura and I have had this discussion before with designers. Sometimes designers are just a solo show, they're the golfer, they're the swimmer, right? It's an individual sport. And I oftentimes wish that sometimes designers had played team sports, because again, going back to the whole communication piece, there is so much that you just want to do on your own, or you're just like, man, I'm just going to do it on my own, but you can't. And I think especially when we're working with builders, potential new clients, they always have this question. We answered this on our last podcast. I'd love to get your perspective on it. But when a homeowner is building a team, they're building a team with an architect, a builder, and a designer. What should they be looking for? And what are you looking for as a builder in working with another designer?
Yeah. So from the client's perspective, most clients are clear, or we want them to be clear about how they want to be involved in the project. Some clients want to be there every day. They just do. Maybe they're retired and they have time and they're super intrigued by the process. Or they're so busy, they're closing their, $1 billion deal, and they don't have time for any of this. And they want to say, team, I have hired the best of the best. You filter it. You bring me what you need. You think about it. When you need approvals, ask me. So, like, the first part is know thyself, right? The client. Know how you want this experience to roll out. And clients are responsible for that. They are 100% responsible with how they want the experience to be during construction, because they can control that by hiring the right team. So depending on that answer, now the designers, the architects, and the builders all know, okay, well, do I fit that system? Whatever that system is, right? So the projects that you work on and we work on, we have weekly meetings, and there's an agenda. And every Friday or Saturday, there's a weekly report issued by the builder. This is what we did last week. This is what we're doing the next 2 weeks. These are the hot topics. This is holding back a decision. These were the updates that were received from the design team, from the architect. Here are pictures of the project, week after week after week after week. And that sets the tone for the project. Mm-hmm. Everybody. Right. And I know you have the same systems too. Mm-hmm. So getting back to like how like for a client to pick their team, start with knowing what you want out of the process. Maybe you want to have fun. Maybe that's it. When people answer that, it's make sure the job sites are super clean on the weekends. Make sure that when we have a team meeting, it doesn't matter if, I was just going to say my dog died. Like that would be really bad. But I was like, it doesn't matter what happened in my life that day or anybody else's life that day. When we're there for an hour and this is what the client wants, then we deliver because they told us. It's easy. They only have 2 or 3 things and we got to deliver on that as a team, right? Yeah. Because if one person's not understanding how the team is operating, then that's not a great team. And again, you work with the top 1%, so do we.
We'd like to thank our good friends at Monogram Appliances. We've partnered with Monogram for over a decade with our design firm, Laura U Design Collective, and we're so happy to partner with them in producing the Design Dash podcast. Monogram sources the highest quality materials for their appliances, from commercial grade stainless steel to unscratchable sapphire glass. Monogram ensures lasting beauty and unmatchable quality for your luxury kitchen. And not only that, but they have an amazing team who we love working with, and we know you will too. So thanks, Monogram.
It's almost performative. It sounds like we are performing for our clients. And it is true. Like when we do a presentation for a client, and I don't know if you're the same. I mean, it may be much more in depth when we're doing a presentation, but we all do, like, we have milestones that we're hitting. So we have a design charrette, then we do our like midpoint review, then we do a final review, and then we have a dry run where we are like performing this presentation. How are we going to show this to the client? Do you feel like you're on like that? Like, do you need to like, just depending, do they want to have fun? Do they want to be efficient? Do they want to, whatever it is they want? Does it feel like that for you?
It feels really clear. Meaning like we have our systems in play, but it's how do we amplify it or elevate it based on each project need. Okay. I have one client that his favorite thing to do is to like text me at 5:30 in the morning and be like, hey, I'm like, hey, they just want that interaction.
Yes.
They just want to be in the fun of it.
Yeah.
Right.
I get it. Yeah. And I think the client that we're working together with, like, she's fun. I love her. Like, this is going to be such a good project. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know that she's coming in with that mindset though. Like, I just want to have fun. What do you think?
I think she's an expansive thinker. Yeah. She's an expansive doer. Uh-huh. She has a lot of energy for entrepreneurship. She enjoys being around leaders. She expects leaders to perform. Yeah. And so that's how we, that's my interpretation for our team on how we're going to show up. Like, this is game time, right? Yep. Like, you studied your work, you asked questions, you talk to the people you need to talk to. When it's go time, you go, because the expectation is big.
Yep. And the fact that you know your client that well, and so do we, I think that really just says it all. Like, the fact that you can be like, this is what this client wants out of this project as a whole, but out of this meeting, their day-to-day expectation. Like, that's huge.
Right. Because like 2 years, they only have 2 years with us, most projects. And that should be one of the best memories of their life. Like, think about anyone who gets to build a home, whatever, any home. Like that's an amazing experience. There are so many meetings we're in that like they didn't know they could ever build a home. And here they are. Right? It's like having a baby. Not quite, but kind of like it's that exciting. It is that exciting. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a really exciting time. And frankly, so much of the reason that like what drives me in the home building business is it's family. Like that's where the family unit is. All of the tough decisions, that environment needs to be so solid for that family, and that energy in that home starts before construction. Mm-hmm. We've all been in projects where if the energy is bad, guess how the project's going to go?
Oh, I know. That's what I was going to say. This is like a really refreshing perspective, because there's so many times that we get into a project and it is with the wrong energy from the outset. Yeah. And so I was going to ask you, like, because so many projects, we get into that valley of despair. There's the optimism at the outset of the project, like sky's the limit, everything's exciting. Then you get into it. And depending on the team, like you could end up quickly in we call it the valley of despair. So do you end up there with your projects ever? And I'm assuming you have to at some point. Yeah. But how do you get out of that?
Yeah. So that has definitely, right. So I'm like 25 years into this. We have 5 kids. So you can imagine there's a lot that happens in life and with our kids that truly do train us. Like, I didn't know how to say no before kids, but I am a pro. Like I have gone professional on saying no firmly. Like, right. So like there are things that we've learned along the way with a business and with a family or no family. It doesn't, we've been through these things. So if, here's a good example. Sometimes you can meet too much on a project. Yeah. So one of the things, and energy changes. So as an example, we're on a project and it's a beautiful project. And towards the end, people want to get into their home. Mm-hmm. And it's just natural. And we know it's coming. Every single project I've ever been on, we want to move. Well, actually, not every one of them, but most of them. We want to move in. We want to move in. It was all fun during construction. And now it's like, I want our, let's beat everybody down. I want in.
They have decision fatigue. They have invoice fatigue. Yes.
Totally.
They're done.
They're done.
Yeah.
But the team has to realize and recognize, oh, I sense a shift here. And if our job is to make this one of the best experiences in their life, we need to shift. We need to change this up a little bit and pay attention to what they really, really need. Mm-hmm. And in that particular project, we had a team meeting, and normally we send one, weekly reports. I said, send five things a day. Just 5 things a day. Shoot an email. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like we like our things to be nice and packaged and pretty and whatever. Just send 5 things a day. Hey, the tile grout was installed in the shower today.
We're getting there. We're getting there. Yep.
And you have to pay attention again to the moments in the process where the energy changes. And at that point in time, you have, as a leader, you need to step in and make and bring that energy back up to where it's supposed to be, especially at the end. So that's just one example, but that can happen at any point in construction. And that's not the time to put your head down and your ego and grind it out and do your thing and get like, it's the opposite. You've been there.
I feel like I'm there all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting though. Like just meeting your energy with what the project and the client needs at that time.
And I think your team too, like Erin, I'm sure you've got to motivate your team when like they're out there all the time. And sometimes they're getting the worst of it. I think maybe when clients are getting really.
For sure. And that's why I'm available, right? Make the phone call.
Yep.
Make it. Tell me all about it.
The big client relationship things, those big pivot points. Yeah. You've got to be there.
Yeah. And they, Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, but speaking of pivoting, so we both have kind of pivoted in our careers because I've had my firm 18 years. You said you've had yours 25 years. I mean, that's a long time. So we've done a lot of stuff in those 2 decades, give or take. So you've pivoted similarly to what Melissa and I have started with Design Dash. You are now mentoring and teaching and like elevating the next generation. So starting with Beyond the Blueprint, and now you have your upcoming project manager boot camp and exclusive coaching program. So talk to me about that pivot. Like when did this happen?
Yeah.
What in the world? How's it going?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there really was no no
what are we
plan.
thinking?
I know. I think it's that thing inside of you and your company and me and my company. We always want to get better and make progress. And part of that is expanding. Right? We don't like to play in the box. If we wanted to play in a box, we'd have the same company that we started with 18 years ago.
Yeah.
So
thank God we don't.
Right? I know. I would never hire me back then. But the world has changed, and frankly, my kids are getting older. So we have 4 in college, and I see, and 1 at home still in high school, and I see their brains changing, and I see the reality of life happening. Like, what am I going to do with my life? And so I'm watching all of this. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the business going, what am I going to do with the business? How do we keep growing and sharing what we know? So you get to for me, we're doing awesome things like in the building world. And I thought, well, you know what? I get to walk into a home every day and watch a trim carpenter work his magic, and watch a painter work her magic, and have a meeting with Laura Yu and her team and just be blown away at why a shade pocket needs to be a certain dimension based on the blackout shades and the regular shade, all these things. And I'm blown away every day. And I think to myself, why wouldn't we share this? When I was started building, I wish I knew all this. I wish somebody just said, this is how, this is like a really wonderful place to have a company and build with. And so that's part of it too. Just share it. I'm so lucky every day that I get to walk into all of these situations and be just blown away by the doers. And so that's for me, that's the energy behind it, that I want to see what's out there. They want to see what's out there. And people have dreams. And so sometimes it just takes oh, hey, look at this over here. And then they're like, whoa, I want to go that way.
Yeah.
How about you? Tell me about where all of this.
Ours is the same. I think just to even talk Design Dash for sure. I was like, oh, I've got all this information. I've been building this company for so long. Same as you. When I started, I literally went to Barnes and Noble, picked up the one book off the shelf that said interior design business. And I was like, okay, that is helpful. There was nothing out there. So you're really just winging it. And, I read every business book out there, not just interior design business. But yeah, I just wanted to share what we've built over, almost 2 decades. I thought that was really important. I love seeing other people win. I freaking love it. I think it's really exciting. And then with this podcast, Melissa and I think we just wanted to talk to badass people. We're like, how do we interact with more amazing people? We're like, let's do a podcast. And we have a reason to interview people like Erin Stetzer. Talk to the doers. People are doing some amazing shit. Let's talk to them about that. Melissa, I don't know.
Yeah, there are some really creative people out there. And I think that it's not like I was feeling stifled, but it's you know what? I'm doing what I'm doing. I was listening to the Bill Hader. He was talking about SNL 50, right? Just had their big Saturday Night Live anniversary. He was telling him that Dan Aykroyd gave him some advice. He's like, those first 4 years that you're doing it, you're going to be like, oh God, what am I doing? I'm uncertain. I'm anxious. I don't know what I'm doing by myself. He's like, and then you're going to get into a groove. Like there's going to be 2 years where, man, you're rocking and rolling. You've got everything going. You're firing on all cylinders. You feel great. He's like, and then you're going to have another couple years where you're just clocking in. He's like, and that's when you know you need to do something else. And I don't think that I'd ever really gotten to that point, but it was very much just like, I want to do something else. I want to stay within this industry. I love being around creative people. We're so lucky that we get to see beautiful things every day. And we get to provide those beautiful things for clients who are so happy that we made those things for them. And I just wanted to expand that community a little bit. Now with Design Dash, we're able to talk to people that are, yes, here in Houston, but then are all over the country and are doing really amazing things all over the country. And I just think that that's so cool.
And there are so many questions that designers have on the business part. So you just, like Laura, you just mentioned that part, which is there's a big difference between working your craft, design work, design firm, creativity, content. Big difference between that and business, and actually creating a business that's thriving. And the two of those go together, and they go together because you've done both and you do both. Looking back, like if I look back, I didn't know how to run a business, right? I liked building homes. That's it. Luckily, I got beat up a few times and learned and did, did it as a one person show and then grew it. But like what you're doing right now is there are lots of designers that have questions like how should fee structures work? How are you preparing the builders? How are you engaging with the architects so they're not offended when you say, hey, the outside of the home really needs to read the inside of the home? And how do you marry the two? There's a skill there, right? And there's a level of communication and business acumen, cash flow. Nobody talks about cash flow.
I do.
You do. Melissa does. But think about all of the other companies that if they have that information in their specific niche, they can grow their companies. They won't go out of business because 100%. It's so easy in a snap to go out of business when you're small.
It is. Yep. And I mean, cash flow is just one thing, but you're right. It all comes back down to being proactive and having that foresight instead of being reactive and, oh God, I'm out of money in a week. What the hell am I going to do now? But I think what's interesting about, or one thing that we seem to share is that we have our core business and then we have our, I don't even know what to call it, like mentorship or like lifelong learning programs that we're working with other industry professionals on. So it's almost like we have a test kitchen in our business. Like we're testing out these ideas and these processes and the things that we're sharing with others, we're actually actively testing it. Like, do you feel like that's a huge benefit to what you're doing?
It's a huge laboratory experiment. And what's interesting though, that what people ask me is like, well, then like, because you're doing all these things, like, how do I know you're focused on my project? Well, guess what? Over the last 25 years, I've learned all this stuff and it's much more efficient now. And the resourcing is very particular. And guess what? I have 5 kids. I've stayed up all night for 7 nights in a row. This is no big deal. Okay. Let's just get that straight.
We got this.
This is like the fact I'm offended. Like, literally, I'm offended that
How
you
did
just
you even
asked me
ask
that.
me that?
Really, I am. So it's all about the energy you bring to things, right?
Yeah.
And things should be more efficient as you build companies and as you grow how you reach others, right?
Yeah. You just get faster at what you do. You're good at what you do.
Yep.
So it just gets
and
easier.
You're quicker at you make decisions fast. If it's wrong, you're clear and you make another one 4 seconds later. That's the right decision.
Yep.
15 years ago, I would have waited 2 weeks to make that decision.
Just kick the can.
Go. Yeah. Like, decide, go, do it, make it
Yeah,
right. Make that
now
decision right.
Yeah. Now I feel like I can get an email, not from you because you have a lot of foresight, but I'll get an email from builder like, hey, we needed this last week, but I'm asking for it now. Can I have it in the next 5 minutes? And I can make those decisions. Like I can say, yes, this is what we need. And so, but that's not an ideal situation, but it's possible.
Yeah. That's the other thing I've learned too is treat people how to treat you.
Yes.
And that's a real thing. But you need to earn it. Like I'm just talking about me personally. I will teach you how to treat me. And the way I'm going to teach you is that we're going to prepare ahead of time and we're going to do all these things so that you know the drill. And so you aren't asking me to produce something out of the blue that we asked about 2 months ago. You don't have that. You don't have that right.
So the builders that are in your courses, how do they receive this information?
So, actually very positively, because
so they're growth mindset, open-minded builders.
They want to, here's what I've learned. People want to prosper. They want to grow. And with that comes some discipline and pain. And so if I'm the one to bring that up, like, you need to do this better. Like, don't even put this in front of me. What needs to happen.
In a nice way, or do you say it like that?
Probably nicer.
Yeah.
probably like, I forgot we're on a podcast right now. Okay, guys. So,
no, I'm just like, how direct should I be? Anyway, keep going. Sorry.
I'm much more direct if it's a phone call after, like if we're having a Zoom call, I would present the facts and how to move forward, but there are plenty of phone calls that happen after. And I would, things like, maybe a client's asking a builder to commit to a certain fee structure, and the builder hasn't been presented with the information, but the builder wants this project so bad because it's great for their portfolio. Okay. This is a phone call that I received. I said, are you kidding me? Would you ever sign up for that? It's not that great. Here's what needs to happen. You give them a list of what you need in order for you to logically think through their project and be able to deliver on their project. What do you need in order to provide that information? If you can't get that information, no deal. Wow. I don't care how great it sounds. And guess what? 12 months later, he got the information and said, hey, Erin, that was a really good talk.
So it's some tough love happening.
Yeah. Like emotions are not a great place to make decisions. They're just not. It's about structuring something really well so that everybody's winning. And there's a way to do that.
I love that. And I feel like, if there's any place to wrap it up, I think that's with that statement. That was really good. Melissa, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's really good. I was going to ask you, like, what's your one piece of advice for people who are wanting to have the same longevity that you have? But I think that's it. Like, it's not even setting boundaries, but I love that kind of direct advice where people are, I think that so much, especially when people are just starting out, they sacrifice so much of themselves in order to get what they think is good or what they think that they need. When in reality, if you are just honest with yourself, which is what you'd mentioned before, get all the information that you need, and like you're going down the right path, you're going to be so much more fulfilled than if you had, sacrificed your needs and compromised what you really wanted just to get what you thought you wanted.
Yeah, it's people, time, and money. Work with the right people. Understand your time constraints and what you're going to commit to, yes or no. And money. Spend less than you make. You can expand from there, but spend less money.
That's a tall order.
Mm-hmm. I know, right? But it works every time.
With as many kids as we all have, like the three of us, Erin, you're winning. But yeah, spend less than you make.
Yeah. Yeah. Until later.
Right. Right. Until they've flown the nest, and then we're going to spend their inheritance. Well, thank you so much. This has been really insightful. And I mean, I could talk to you for another 2 hours about so much, but let our listeners or our viewers know where they can find you.
So we're on Instagram. So,
you don't
Erin
even know.
Stetzer Homes on Instagram. Our website, Erin Stetzer Homes. Yeah, those two places.
Everywhere. Erin Stetzer Homes. You will find her. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This has been really great. I appreciate you.
Thank you both. And I admire you both so much. So thank you so much for taking the time to catch up.
Thank you.
And we'll see you every week.
I know we will.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast, coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on design-.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.